By the way, I just should mention, it's very distracting, like, interviewing such a, you know, the golden head of Bluck, you know, he looks like half the cast of Clash of the Titans. You know? It's, you know, with glasses on, you know. So tell us about your latest movie in front of the camera. Are you swinging a sword? Welcome back to another regularly special episode of Through the Lens. We've got today with us Nigel Bluck, originally from
New Zealand,
Kiwi, and of your most recent film, I believe it's your most recent film,
The Tree. Yeah.
Stephen Holden in the New York Times writes, "Here, on the edge of the outback, the environment is so luminous that every outdoor shot has an aura of magical realism." Not a bad, not a bad quote for a cinematographer in the first paragraph of the. So, tell us a little bit about making that story. Charlotte Gainsborough and this wonderful performance from Morgana Davies, playing an 8-year-old girl who's lost her father.
Well, it was a co-production, French-Australian co-production. So, I mean, that was interesting in itself because of the French way of making films and the Australian way of making films and where they meet, you know. Julie was an interesting lady. She'd been very much a filmmaker, and sort of her father was a director, so she was very versed in filmmaking, and it had a lot of parallels with this story to her story. You know,
oh, really?
Her husband was a great cinematographer who died recently, like in the last 2 years before the film got made. So
how many cinematographers did she go through before?
Well, I don't know actually, but somehow that ended on me. But it was it was interesting because not only was her story paralleling our story, but I was sort of having to step into this relationship where she usually had worked with her husband. So it was an interesting relationship to navigate. And you know, I spoke French and they did, and so I became sort of the meat and the sandwich between the Australian and French way of doing it, but it was good and worked out well.
Beautiful story, right?
Beautiful story, very sad story, but and very reliant on the kids and their performances, which Morgana and the kids gave up.
Dad! Dad! Mom! What's happening? Mom! Dad's not moving! Dad! Dad!
What happened? Peter! Peter! Peter!
Get him out of the car.
Dad!
Mom, get him out of the car.
He's not moving!
Mom, calm down. Get him out of the car.
Dad? I heard him.
Ghost, you mean?
No, not a ghost. For real. I can talk to him. Want me to show you?
Now? In the middle of the night? We'll see tomorrow, darling.
Come on now.
So tell us about that. Tell us about shooting, because I mean, this is one thing, like, you know, the old rule, you're making your movie, no dogs, no kids, right? So here you have, I mean, it's a family of six in the movie.
Children, yeah.
6 children.
Well, no, 5 children.
5 children,
yeah.
right.
So, and a lot of them, you know, there was 2 of them, one was under 5 and Morgana was like 7. So the hours were difficult in terms of trying to get it all.
So how does that impact you?
Well, we can only work with them for a certain amount of hours a day. So when you're scheduling, it becomes a real puzzle as to how we can work with the different groups. And, you know, the thing with this film is that a lot of the time they're in scenes together. So that's a tricky one.
Were you ever shooting scenes where you basically were, you know, cheating, the other actor wasn't there, and
yeah,
you're just
absolutely.
saying act against a wall?
Absolutely, which is hard for the kids because you've got to keep it real for the kids. You've got to keep the situation real. They don't understand the breakdown of the filmmaking construct like adults do. So you strive to always keep the kids and all the people in the room who are involved. But I mean, you know, Morgana, as she went through the film, became more and more professional. Just as kids do, picks it up so quickly. You know.
Amazing. You get there, and the whole movie. The movie's called The Tree, and you have this gigantic tree, which I'm presuming was found
that was the first thing that was searched for and found. And the idea was to find the tree and then figure it out from there. I mean, Stephen Jones Evans, the production designer on the film, who I've worked with several times, he was part of finding that final tree. And then basically what they did is they built the house to the tree. So, and that being said, we found a house, an original Queenslander, which is a type of house in that area, and cut it in half and moved it onto the site and rebuilt it on this hill. And you know, the beautiful thing about that is we had the luxury of, like, you know, scouting the light and figuring out how best to place the house.
It looks to me as though you somehow managed to give it a, I mean, it's a deadly word, naturalism, right? A naturalistic look, because you know, what does that mean?
What is
right?
natural?
What is naturalism, right? But that being said, is it a challenge to try and find a way when you're shooting all these different angles of the tree? Are you trying to, like, well, how can I make this the most beautiful set piece in the world, or what's the challenges in trying to make it both naturalistic and at the same time stylish? Well,
naturalism was always, for this film, was always a big thing. I mean, it's always a big thing in my work personally. I always go to naturalism and natural. You know, if I need to solve a problem, I imagine it in natural terms and then try and solve it backwards. Because that's, for me, what I strive for in cinematography is like a sense of truth and naturalism, to completely take the audience to a place and then keep it consistent, which is the hard part. This film, naturalism was a big part of it, but there was also a sense of magic that had to be there, and because of this character of this tree, who is very much a character in the story, we had to find a way to make it speak, to make it respond somehow to the characters.
Did you like math? It runs in the family. I don't know why his team's so good at math.
Simone! Hey! Hey, look at me! What is it with the tree? Come on, sweetheart, you can tell me. Damn it, Simone, what's wrong with you? Look, you can't have everything your own way.
Calm down, George! Enough now!
You were saying something beautiful there. You're saying you strive for naturalism.
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
Did you get into the business? Your uncle, Richard Bluck.
Yeah, he had little to. I mean, I started off actually wanting to.
I don't want to open up a family feud.
No. I started off wanting to be a director and went to art school. An art school which had a film component, so you could paint, film, sculpture, whatever. And that was a great place to just pick up cameras and figure it out. And then I just naturally started shooting everyone's films and gravitated towards the photography side of it. And then I went out to the business for a while because they're like, that's what you do. You need to go and be an assistant for a while, which I did. And then I actually got into another film school, the National Film School in Australia, which had a more cinematography specific stream, which was sort of more like, okay, you can come here for a couple of years and then you might be able to step out as a DP. So did that for a while, and that sort of worked. And at the end of that, I left, and actually my now wife and I and another student, we started a little company, bought a camera, and just started shooting.
What was the camera you bought?
We actually bought a Bolex, the first Bolex.
Wow.
Sync Sound 16mm coaxial
Quartz.
camera, which was really rare camera that sort of preceded the SRs and the ARRI coaxial magazines.
So we're talking 1980.
You know, even earlier, I think it was like mid-70s. It was like it was going to be the Rolls Royce of the news reportage camera. And bought a couple of them, and they eventually stopped working. And, but it was a great way to start, and you know,
but
and it was
before
all
they
film,
died.
yeah, and it was all film then, which was great. And
so you would now this is in New Zealand or Australia? I mean,
in Australia,
yeah.
And then eventually I went back to New Zealand and started working there as a commercial DP mainly.
Right. Do you miss film?
Yeah, I miss film. I don't miss film yet because it's not dead yet.
Yeah, of course not yet. Not yet.
But
I
miss it. The digital revolution is really exciting. There's some amazing things about it, but it's just that there's some amazing things about it. I don't think it's a complete replacement for film yet.
No.
I think that it's an amazing other tool to have as well as film. It's very sad that just the financial realities and the people who make decisions are out of our control will eventually bias it towards digital. I mean, that's just what it is, but that's just a reality, I think.
And it is improving all the time, too.
All the time, and hopefully by the time film completely dies, we'll have something that is as good.
And that's the thing that a lot of people have, you know, a hard time understanding, or you know, when they argue about, you know, pixel counts and stuff like that, is that it's not, you know, it's just much like a stick shift car. It's not, sure, you can make something that goes faster in an automatic without a clutch, but the feel of it is what it is, right? So does the film, the actual celluloid itself, play a part in your, when you say, you know, going back to your comment about naturalism and about, is it sort of integrated into that? Cause
Absolutely,
okay.
yeah. It's always, you know, I always test, figure out what, you know, to try and have a vision for what I want the image to be like, and then test towards that. And usually it's trying to work a balance between a kind of transparent image that has no artifact, but then to give the audience a totally immersive experience and sort of take them there. But at the same time, sort of writing how much I can control and bias and move the image around. I always try and put myself in a place where I can control the image one way or the other ways. Try not to back myself into a corner, so that I know that, you know, for something that I may have planned or something that I might not plan in the process of shooting the film, I'll have room to go in one direction or the other. Because it always changes. The director's thoughts change, my thoughts change, the realities change. You need to build into your equation flexibility all the time. That's what I think great DPs are, or part of being a good DP is to be flexible and have a sort of a response that comes naturally through experience and confidence about being able to not be too set in your ways.
So you're saying that, you know, the process of working is as much related to the results of what you get as the
Absolutely.
The eye that you brought to it.
Absolutely, yeah.
In the early days and along the way of, you know, you developing as a cinematographer, seeing things that happen, who were some of either people we would know about or people we wouldn't know about that you know, that really influenced you?
Well, there's Gordon Willis, who's like on everyone's list, really,
right.
And that was, I just love, you know, the elegance of what he does is kind of beyond and beautiful, I think. You know, and I don't think
kind of the
really,
godfather of cinematography.
Yeah, I think he's named that for a reason. I mean, it's so elegant and it's so natural and it's so simple, and I haven't seen it bettered yet. It was like that every time.
Every time. Just because I want to talk about some of your other projects. Half Moon, a film you shot, you told me just now in Iran. So tell us about the experience of shooting that. What, you know, as a photographer. Yeah.
Well, it was an amazing experience. For me, it was a massive privilege to be. I mean, I've always admired Iranian filmmaking.
Abbas Kiarostami.
All of it, because of its poetry. And it comes from, you know, life over there has got so much to do with poetry, more than literature. It seems to come from a poetic place, their own literary place. So it's more about feeling and space and time rather than necessarily the words or the story, you know. And therefore, cinematically, I think there's been some amazing stuff that's come out of there. So I was very honoured to be asked to go and shoot there. Apparently, one of the only Westerners to go and shoot a film there.
وتي بيجا بيرنا شي بو مسافرة اتفاقي جي بو كافي باكو بما تشوف شيوت خوي دي مانشور شوالد اتفاقي جي بو كافي هذا سري قدو ما تشوف
بناوي آهنگ سازيكو بهاوري كراكانم وكو يكم قلوبي كأيوي لكردستاني آزادي باش سدام موسيقاي آزادي بريو ببن لناو ايودا ولقلتان هروها بخوش حالي وراقينم
Bahman Gobadi is an amazing filmmaker, and I'd admired his films up to that point, and And yeah, it was an honour and a privilege. I mean, it was incredibly difficult because it was such a foreign land to me. The language was really tricky because he spoke very little English, and so did the crew. And I mean, they spoke a bit of French, so that's how I sort of communicated. But it taught me a lot of lessons about how little you need to say, how much everyone knows about what they're doing, and just that thing about, you know, trusting in crews and trusting in their ways and not being stuck on your ways. And if they, you know, you're being invited to a place to do something, you need to be able to operate on their levels, you know. And it was completely different technically than I had experienced, but well, it was just so bare bones, you know. And it was like guys running up lampposts to plug lines and you know, the passion with which they did it was just, it's just life and death. It's just a different level compared to what I've been used to. We shot on film. We shot anamorphic, which I smuggled some lenses in from London so that we could do that, and that had been done before in Iran.
You had to smuggle in lenses and
because it's a big deal bringing equipment into Iran. And
so what was it? Panavision C series?
No, it was Joe Dunton, Crystal Express.
His custom made.
His Crystal Express series, which I've shot a couple of films on now, and on a movie cam compact, and it was all handheld. And the focus puller had never done anamorphic, but it completely didn't phase me at all. And he's just a brilliant guy. Never pulled out a tape. Just a guy, a career focus puller who had done.
Never brought out a tape.
No, I mean, it's a big industry there. They make like 100 films a year. So the crew are really experienced.
There's a little mythology about, you know, trying to make a story over there that the government might come and shut you down. Was
all that. Yeah, it was all that.
So it was literally
massively. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. We were shooting a scene. There's a bus that travels through the country, which is what they all get on board and we travel with. And we shot a scene underneath the bus of two couples coming together and like kissing. Perhaps it's what's inferred, you know. And
don't use that word.
And Barman leans down to me and he goes, "This is the first sex scene to be shot in our cinema." And I was like,
"Sex scene,"
because it's effectively, you know, what it's imbuing is that, you know.
Wow.
So that was the kind of. You know, so the restrictions upon which these people work is phenomenal, and that was a massive thing for me. Just like learning, you know, these people work with so little and such constrictions, under such fear, and you know, it's life and death. It's like
it just sounds like because of the experience that you had making it and the reverence for the passion of the filmmakers that you were working with, that they were willing to go to these lengths, and that they would do anything, and that they would risk.
Too far often. I mean, there was times where I was like, you know, come on, you know, this is a film after all. You know.
So what did that do for you and your shooting? I mean, did you just, it made you want to go the extra mile, or it made
yeah, it did. I mean, but it was a pretty simply shot film, and it was always going to be that, and it always had to be that. And I don't think it's more about how I just kept it going every day and tried and didn't leave, you know, and just tried to keep going and go through it and keep the pieces together and deal with Barman, and it was incredible. I mean, all non-actors, you know.
I bet that was such a. I mean, you mentioned Gordon Willis, who I, having spoken with him once, said. You got sick and tired of waiting for actors to come out of their trailers. You know, I mean, was it unbelievably refreshing to have?
Absolutely. Everyone there all the time.
Yeah.
And like from the 98-year-old lead guy who's a cab driver, you know, to the kids, you know. So yeah, it was. I'll never forget it. It made a huge impact on me as a filmmaker, and you know, I was very happy that it got the accolades it did, and that people saw it, you know. It's not the kind of thing I want to do every day, you know, because it took a massive amount of energy, and I can remember writing letters home to my father going, you know, I got to get out of here. And,
oh, really?
But stuck to it, and it was really worthwhile, you know. Yeah.
That's great. We wouldn't, you know, we have to, of course, ask about the process of working on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I mean, because people don't, I don't think any two films operate with a second unit or a third unit the same way.
No.
Sometimes it's like, oh, by the way, you're shooting with principals today.
Yeah, it was...
Go take Ian McKellen and shoot
exactly.
this.
It was exactly that. I mean, there were like 5 DPs. I can't even remember how many units. The units kept changing. There's main unit, second unit. There's miniatures. There's my unit, visual effects. So I just kept. There were a lot of DPs involved, you know. But it was a massive learning curve for me. I learned an enormous amount. It was to be on that size stage at that time of my career was an amazing opportunity. And to work with Peter some days, with huge actors some days at that stage was amazing. And in New Zealand on this very sort of lo-fi set, really, what was being achieved in those days, visual effects wise, was really the beginnings of a lot of things.
I'm presuming when you're shooting it, nobody knows that it's going to turn out to be one of the highest grossing, most successful, most beautifully made trilogies ever.
No, it was going to be a big thing. Everyone knew that, but no one.
But so he's obviously, you know, he's got a lot riding on it. You know, this is his, you know, it's a game changer for him, even though he's already a hugely successful filmmaker in New Zealand. Was it a marvel to see how collected he was and able to just put all the pieces together in his head?
That and watching Andrew work as well. I mean, Andrew's an amazing cinematographer of huge scale.
What are the biggest things you learned from him? If you had to.
What to concentrate on and what to ignore, what to be fussy about and what not to, what to make sure you've got, and what to not worry about too much. Learning to overexpose, learning to think about the process all the way down the line, especially as far as visual effects goes. Not to think of to keep on opening up your view of what you're doing, rather than you can start burrowing your head into the camera very easily, and it's an easy place to hide.
Nigel Bluck, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a fascinating conversation, and we look forward to seeing more of your films.
Great. So do I.